Do you ever get the feeling that you're not fully in charge of your own life? As if, beneath every decision and reaction, there's a hidden presence, a silent force within you, quietly pulling the strings. Have you ever caught yourself acting out of character, saying things you regret, or feeling an inexplicable shame or anger and wondered, where did that come from? What if the answers to these mysteries have nothing to do with fate or luck, but with a secret part of yourself you barely know? Carl Jung called this hidden part of you the shadow. He believed that within every person, there is a side that remains unseen, full of forgotten memories, repressed desires, old wounds, and uncomfortable truths. Most of us spend our entire lives trying to avoid our shadow, covering it up with achievements, smiles, or the masks we wear for others. But no matter how hard we try to outrun it, the shadow lingers, silently shaping our habits, our relationships, our deepest fears, and even our dreams. Have you ever noticed a pattern in your life you can't break? An argument you always find yourself in, a fear that keeps returning, a sadness that has no clear source? These are not accidents or random flaws. They are whispers from your hidden self, calling out for your attention. The more you ignore them, the louder they become, until one day, your own life starts to feel unfamiliar, as if you're watching yourself from the outside, unable to reach the person you truly are. If any of this sounds familiar, share your story in the comments below. Sometimes, voicing what you're going through can help not only you, but also someone else who's searching for understanding in the dark. Your journey may be the lantern another person needs. From the moment we're born, we begin learning what is acceptable and what must be hidden away. Children quickly sense which feelings will be met with love and which ones with disapproval. We learn to smile when we want to cry, to agree when we long to object, to shrink ourselves to fit into boxes made by others. These early lessons don't just vanish with time. They sink into our subconscious, building the foundation of our shadow. Each unspoken word, each suppressed desire, each shameful moment quietly collects, waiting for the day it will be heard. Jung saw the shadow not as an enemy, but as a neglected friend, a part of you that, once understood, holds the key to real freedom and growth. He taught that the journey to wholeness does not begin by chasing after some perfect ideal self, but by turning gently toward the parts we've been taught to reject. Imagine for a moment, living without fear of your own darkness. What if, instead of running, you learned to listen? What secret gifts might be hiding in the places you least want to look? In everyday life, the shadow shows up in subtle, persistent ways. Perhaps it's the way you shrink from praise, feeling unworthy of success. Maybe it's the jealousy you feel toward someone's happiness, or the anger that flares up over a small inconvenience. Sometimes it emerges in dreams, strange, unsettling images that haunt you at dawn, or recurring nightmares that echo old wounds. Each of these is a message, written in the language of the unconscious, asking to be seen and understood. Most people believe that if they just ignore these feelings, they will fade away. But the shadow is not a ghost to be banished. It's a living, breathing part of you, longing for recognition. The more you suppress it, the more powerful it becomes, sometimes sabotaging your goals, coloring your relationships, or leading you to make choices that don't reflect your true desires. Have you ever wondered why you sometimes act in ways that surprise or even disappoint yourself? That is the shadow at work, steering from behind the curtain. We often wear masks to protect ourselves from the discomfort of our own shadow. You might become the helper who always puts others first, hiding your own needs. Or perhaps you adopt the mask of the perfectionist, striving for flawlessness to cover the pain of feeling not good enough. Maybe you become the joker, making light of everything so no one ever suspects the sadness inside. These masks can be comforting, even necessary at times. But after a while, they can also become prisons, cutting you off from your true self and the world around you. Jung believed that true healing begins when we stop running from our shadow and start a dialogue with it. This does not mean indulging every dark impulse or acting out old wounds. It means becoming honest with yourself, acknowledging the parts you would rather ignore with compassion instead of judgment. When you do this, you discover something extraordinary. The shadow is not just a repository of shame and pain. It also holds your creativity, your passion, your unique gifts, the very qualities that make you whole. Picture someone who has always been afraid to speak their truth, worried that they will be rejected or misunderstood. Over time, this fear grows, and their voice becomes smaller and smaller. But when they finally face this fear, when they allow themselves to express what's hidden, they find not only relief, but a sense of power and aliveness that was missing all along. This is the paradox of the shadow. What you resist not only persists but grows stronger. What you accept begins to heal. Every day presents a new opportunity to see the shadow at work. Maybe it's in the argument you have with a loved one, where the anger feels much bigger than the situation warrants. Or perhaps it's in the envy that arises when you see someone else succeed, making you question your own worth. You may notice it in the way you sabotage opportunities or pull away from intimacy when things get too close for comfort. Each moment is a chance to pause and wonder, what part of me is trying to speak right now? The world around us often rewards denial and distraction. Social media is full of carefully curated images, encouraging us to present only our brightest, most polished selves. Yet, beneath every filtered photo, every perfect caption, is a human being with shadows of their own, struggling with doubt, insecurity, longing, and pain. We are not alone in this. The truth is, everyone carries a shadow. To embrace it is to step onto the path of real, lasting change. In this journey, there are no quick fixes, no shortcuts. The work of meeting your shadow is gentle, patient, and deeply personal. It is not about blaming yourself for the past or expecting to become someone else overnight. Instead, it is about opening a door to the parts of yourself you have kept locked away, inviting them into the light of your awareness. As Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. What might your life look like if you stopped running from the darkness within you? How would your relationships change if you met yourself, shadow and all, with tenderness and curiosity? The first step is simply to notice. When an uncomfortable feeling arises, instead of pushing it away, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what is this really about? What am I afraid of? The answers may not come immediately, but even asking the question is a radical act of self-acceptance. As you move through your day, see if you can spot the shadow at work in your thoughts, your reactions, your dreams. Pay attention to what triggers you, what scares you, what you long for in secret. These are clues pointing the way back to the parts of you that most need your attention. And so the journey begins, not with grand declarations or dramatic change, but with a single quiet willingness to look within. The hidden self is not your enemy. It is a guide, a teacher, and perhaps the key to becoming fully alive. As you continue on this journey inward, you might notice how the world seems to echo your inner struggles. Every relationship, every disappointment, every joy is colored by what you carry inside. You may think you're reacting to other people or to fate, but in truth, you're often responding to your own shadow, those long-buried parts of yourself, silently seeking to be heard and seen. This is why the same patterns keep appearing in your life, no matter how many times you try to escape them. Take, for example, the feeling of not being enough. Maybe you grew up trying to meet the expectations of your family or your culture, learning to measure your worth by external approval. Jung called the masks we wear to fit into society persona. The persona is necessary. It helps you navigate the world, build relationships, and find your place. But when you become too attached to this mask, you begin to forget the parts of yourself that don't fit. You hide your anger, your grief, your longing for freedom, and even your quiet joy. Over time, these rejected pieces gather in the shadow, quietly influencing your choices from behind the scenes. Think about a time you felt misunderstood or invisible, when the real you was hidden beneath layers of politeness, ambition, or perfectionism. Maybe you laughed along with a joke that hurt you, or agreed with something you knew was wrong, just to keep the peace. Each of these moments is a negotiation with the shadow, an unspoken agreement to keep certain parts of yourself in the dark. And yet, these hidden pieces never truly disappear. They wait for you in dreams, in the sudden waves of emotion that catch you off guard, or in the hollow ache that sometimes follows success. Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so unsettling, that it lingered long after you woke? Jung believed that dreams are the language of the unconscious, a direct line to the parts of ourselves we can't face in daylight. The shadow speaks in symbols, strange images, familiar faces with unfamiliar intentions, or places from your past that refuse to let go. If you listen carefully, you'll find that every dream, no matter how confusing, is an invitation to wholeness. It's your hidden self reaching out, asking for understanding, healing, and release. In these quiet hours of the night, your defenses are down. You're not performing, not pretending, not hiding behind the mask. Here, the inner child, another of Jung's central ideas, may appear. This is the part of you that remembers what it was like to feel small, vulnerable, hopeful, and afraid. The inner child carries your earliest wounds and your purest joys. Sometimes when you're hurt or overwhelmed, it's the inner child who responds, reacting with fear or anger learned long ago. Meeting this part of yourself with compassion is one of the greatest acts of courage. Real transformation begins the moment you stop blaming the world for your pain and start listening to the messages within. Perhaps you notice that certain people trigger you, making you feel defensive or insecure. Rather than judging yourself for these reactions, what if you approach them with curiosity? What is my shadow trying to tell me? What old wound is being touched right now? This shift from judgment to inquiry opens the door to growth. Life has a mysterious way of bringing us face to face with our shadow again and again until we are ready to pay attention. Maybe you keep finding yourself in the same kind of relationship, repeating patterns you vowed never to repeat. Or you sabotage your own happiness just when things seem to be going well. Jung called these moments synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that aren't random at all, but signs from your unconscious, guiding you toward healing. If you look at your life as a series of messages, you begin to see how the hidden self is always inviting you to wholeness. Consider the story of someone who always feels like an outsider. No matter where they go, they never truly feel at home. On the surface, they might blame their job, their friends, or their city. But if they look deeper, they might find an old wound, a childhood memory of being excluded, a belief that they are unlovable or different. This hidden story shapes their entire experience, coloring every new opportunity with doubt. When they finally confront this shadow, not with blame but with gentle curiosity, they can begin to rewrite the story. It takes time and patience to unearth the parts of yourself you've spent years hiding. The shadow doesn't reveal itself all at once. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet discomfort, a nagging sense that something's missing. Other times it erupts in anger, jealousy, or grief, overwhelming you with feeling. The key is not to run or deny, but to welcome these moments as opportunities for self-discovery. Jung taught that every person's shadow is unique, shaped by personal history, culture, and the collective unconscious, the deep well of human experience shared by all people. Within this collective unconscious lie the archetypes, universal images and patterns that shape our stories and dreams. The hero, the mother, the trickster, the wise old man. These figures appear in myths, fairy tales, and our own imaginations, connecting us to something greater than ourselves. When you encounter these archetypes in your life or dreams, you are meeting the collective shadow of humanity itself. Sometimes the shadow is so overwhelming that it seems impossible to face. You may feel broken, ashamed, or alone, but you are not alone. Every person you meet carries a shadow too, often hidden behind smiles, success, or certainty. When you have the courage to meet your own darkness, you gain the ability to meet others with empathy and understanding. Your vulnerability becomes your strength, your honesty a light for those still lost in denial. The world encourages us to keep moving, to stay busy, to chase after endless goals and distractions. But beneath the noise, your hidden self waits patiently. It speaks in subtle ways, a heaviness in your chest, a longing for something more, a feeling of being both present and absent in your own life. Listen to these signals. They are the compass that points toward your true self. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you don't have to hide anymore, that you can be both strong and soft, ambitious and afraid, joyful and grieving. Wholeness is not about perfection. It is about embracing the full spectrum of who you are, the light and the dark, the known and the hidden, the accepted and the rejected. When you welcome your shadow, you reclaim the parts of yourself you once gave away, and in doing so, you become more alive, more authentic, and more free. Notice how the shadow colors even the simplest moments: a conversation with a friend, a walk through the city, a quiet evening alone. It might show up as resistance, defensiveness, or an urge to withdraw, or it might appear as sudden inspiration, a burst of creativity, or a feeling of deep connection. The shadow is not just a force of destruction, it is also the birthplace of your greatest gifts. As you become more aware of your hidden self, you begin to see the world differently. You recognize the masks others wear, the pain behind their anger, the longing beneath their joy. Compassion grows, for yourself and for others. You stop expecting life to be simple or perfect, and instead welcome its complexity, its mystery, its wild beauty. You are not alone on this journey. All across the world, people are waking up to the call of the shadow, daring to look within, to face what they've denied, to heal what has been broken. Every act of self-acceptance ripples outward, making it a little easier for others to do the same. In this way, your personal healing becomes a gift to the world. So the next time you feel the familiar tug of shame or fear, pause for a moment, notice what you're experiencing. Offer yourself the kindness you would offer a friend. Remind yourself, this too is a part of me. With each act of compassion, the shadow loses its power to control you. Instead of running from your hidden self, you begin to walk beside it, learning its language, honoring its wisdom. This is the quiet revolution Jung spoke of, not a battle against yourself, but a gentle integration of all that you are. The journey continues, always deeper, always unfolding. And as you walk this path, you will discover that the hidden self is not a burden, but a source of strength and beauty, waiting for you to come home. As you move further along this inner journey, a quiet realization may dawn. The work of embracing your shadow is never really finished. Life continues to offer new experiences, new relationships, and new challenges that reveal yet more hidden aspects of yourself. Yet with every step, you become less afraid of what you might find within. Where once there was resistance and judgment, now there is growing curiosity, compassion, and even gratitude for the complexity of your own humanity. There will be moments when the old patterns try to pull you back, times when shame, anger, or sadness resurface, stronger than ever. But now, instead of running or hiding, You have the tools to pause and listen. You recognize that these difficult emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers, each carrying a fragment of your story that longs to be acknowledged and released. With each act of gentle attention, the shadow's grip loosens. The voice that once sabotaged your growth becomes a source of insight and transformation. Jung described this lifelong journey as the process of individuation, a path toward becoming your whole, authentic self. Individuation is not about achieving perfection, but about integration. It is the art of welcoming home every part of yourself, the wounds and the wisdom, the failures and the dreams, the doubts and the gifts. When you stop fighting against yourself, you begin to experience a sense of inner harmony that cannot be shaken by the world outside. In your everyday life, this shift may reveal itself in small but profound ways. Perhaps you find yourself reacting with more patience to a loved one's mistake, or speaking your truth even when your voice trembles. Maybe you allow yourself to rest without guilt, or to pursue a passion you had long abandoned. These simple acts of self-acceptance are proof that healing is not a distant destination, but a series of moments, each one inviting you to embrace your whole self. Your dreams, too, may take on new meaning. As you listen to the messages from your unconscious, you might notice recurring symbols or familiar faces returning with fresh insights. Instead of dismissing your dreams as random, you approach them as teachers, offering guidance, warning, and hope. Some dreams may still frighten you, but you learn that even nightmares can be guides, leading you toward what needs healing. With practice, you start to see synchronicities everywhere, moments when life seems to mirror your inner journey. A song that plays just when you need comfort, a conversation that sheds light on a hidden pain, a coincidence that nudges you toward a long-awaited decision. Jung believed that these synchronicities are not mere chance, but signs that your conscious and unconscious minds are beginning to align. As you pay attention to these patterns, you discover a deeper trust in the unfolding of your life. As you integrate your shadow, your relationships may begin to change. You find yourself less drawn to conflict, more open to connection. You can listen without immediately judging or defending yourself. When someone triggers you, you see it as an opportunity to learn rather than a reason to withdraw. You realize that every person you meet is also on their own journey with the shadow, struggling, healing, growing. This understanding opens the door to greater empathy and deeper love. Perhaps most surprisingly, the more you embrace your own shadow, the more you tap into your unique gifts. Qualities you once thought of as weaknesses become sources of strength. Old wounds become wellsprings of creativity and compassion. The shame you once hid gives way to a quiet confidence, rooted in the knowledge that you are enough just as you are. Instead of striving endlessly for approval, you begin to live from the inside out, guided not by fear, but by authenticity. You may notice, too, how your perception of the world transforms. The world, once divided into good and bad, right and wrong, becomes richer, more nuanced, alive with possibility. You stop expecting life to be easy or perfect, and instead welcome its challenges as invitations to grow. You see beauty in imperfection, meaning in struggle, and hope in every new beginning. There will still be days when the old patterns return, when the shadow feels overwhelming. But now, you know how to meet these moments, not with self-criticism, but with kindness and patience. You remind yourself that growth is not linear, healing is not a race. Each setback is simply another invitation to return to yourself, to listen, to learn, to begin again. In this way, the journey toward wholeness becomes a practice, a daily commitment to being honest, compassionate, and brave with yourself. Some days, this might mean taking a deep breath before responding to criticism. Other days, it might mean allowing yourself to grieve, to celebrate, to rest, or to dream. Each choice, no matter how small, is a step toward integration. To help anchor this process in your own life, try this simple practice. Tonight, before you go to sleep, sit quietly for a few minutes, breathe deeply, and allow your mind to wander. Ask yourself gently, what part of me am I not seeing? What is my shadow trying to tell me? Let whatever arises come without judgment or resistance. Maybe it's a memory, a feeling, a face, or a word. Welcome it as you would welcome an old friend. If you wish, write down your experience in a journal or reflect on it in the morning. Over time, you may notice patterns, messages, or symbols that guide you toward deeper healing. Remember, this work is both sacred and ordinary. It is the everyday art of turning toward yourself with honesty and love. Jung reminded us that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. You do not have to do this alone. Each time you share your story, you offer light to someone else walking this path. Each time you meet your own shadow with compassion, you make it easier for others to do the same. If these insights touch something within you, I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Your words may be the encouragement another person needs today. And if you wish to continue exploring the transformative wisdom of Carl Jung, don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos on this channel. Thank you for spending this time together, for your openness, your courage, and your willingness to look within. Until we meet again, may you walk gently with your whole self, shadow and light, knowing that every part of you is worthy of love and belonging.